Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, let us give praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has given us blessings so that we can carry out this presentation. Then I would like to say thank you to Mr. Dr. Muhammad Andriana Ghaffar, MMPD, who has given us guidance and the chance to present today. Before going into the material, I would like to introduce our group members. First of all, my name is Rafael Alfiandi, and I will be the moderator of this presentation. And then there is Raka Priya, and then Shakira Nur Khodija, and then lastly, there's also Vanisha Eltriana. We are from Group 5, and today we will present our material about transactional communication. Without any further ado, let's get into the first material. The first material will be carried out by Shakira. So Shakira, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. So we have transactional and interactional communications. So transactional communication convey information, but interactional language reveals social relationship and personal attitudes. So both scenarios can result in misinterpretation and anticipated emotional responses, and culture-borne communication standards are frequently at the basis of misinterpretation, and they are influenced by the communication level at hand. And the levels how show the chunking of abstract transactional or interactional situations into concrete testing indicators in a model HCC or LCC discourse. The community of practice text type, genre membership, and interlocutors' perceptions of the circumstance uh, all play important roles in influencing actual linguistic behavior. And we have next slide, please. Next, we have first level is the context transactional of interactional. So communication preferences vary depending on whether the text is transactional or interactive. British and American LCC preferences favor a KISS approach to transactional communication, and whereas KILC favor completeness of expression in transactional communication. However, KISS or KILC preferences may shift between transactional and interactional communication, as they can reverse between language. And there is no requirement to connect KISS or KILC with with other cultural orientation, because they can blend or overlap the produce of specialized communication at a given time. Next, we have second level. Does the context allow both spoken and written modes of communication? So, individuals, group, organization, and cultures frequently have preferences for the channel or medium communication. The conventional distinction is between written and spoken words, with the Latin phrase said verba florens scripta manent, sorry, implying that written words persist. An LCC orientation may prefer writing, whereas an HCC orientation may prefer spoken communication because of its immediacy, flexibility, and relatedness. This can influence the mode of communication use. And next slide, please. Next, we have third level HCC and LCC orientation. The desired communication method in scripta mode is predominantly written, with a concentration and translation rather than oral conversation, like we can see on the PPT, right? Next, we have fourth level KISS and KILC writing styles. HCC or KILC-ness is closely related to LCC or KISS-ness, especially when it comes to transactional communications. In the American version of the Microsoft PowerPoint app, the bullet points of are in the style of KISS, which means there's plenty of space around the words and making it easier to focus on the individual words. High WSQ means LCC. So, and next, last but not least, we have fifth level, like we can see on the PPT text indicators. Finally, at this level, we can see the likely lexical, grammatical, and stylistic variation in the text, like we can see on the PPT, right? Intercultural communication depends on bridging cultural divides in all contexts. And LCC, or low context communication, is essential for understanding on another, especially in the context of international immigration or internal displacement. For first encounter, read-oriented text provide factual information in an easily understandable language. Cultural mediating is essential for um, successful interaction, irrespective of the cultural device at play. That's all from me. I give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful explanation by Shakira. The next material will be presented by myself. Here we will delve into the popular proverb, the Latin proverb, verba one, scripta manent. The Latin proverb verba one, or scripta manent, addresses the choice between spoken or verba and written or scripta communication. Individuals favoring communication recognize the limitations of writing, such as inflexibility and restrictiveness, whereas those inclined towards written communication emphasize its benefits like conciseness and consistency. This section explores these cultural inclinations through instances of legal and commercial dealings. Generally, a higher preference for low context culture, or LCC, corresponds to a stronger preference for written communication, while a stronger inclination towards high context culture, or HCC, necessitates a greater reliance on spoken communication. Next slide, please. First, we will be talking about contracts. Contracts exemplify how communication practices vary between high context cultures and low context cultures. Written contracts, although widespread globally, exhibit cultural differences in terms of meaning, explicitness, and detail. In Western cultures, contracts aim to be comprehensive, foreseeing, foreseeing all possible circumstances and disputes. Conversely, in certain Asian countries, contracts might intentionally remain vague about the deal specifics. In LCC contexts like the United States, a contract marks the end of negotiations, while in Arab and Confucian cultures, it serves as a preliminary step in the negotiation process. An illustrative case involves an Australian-Japanese sugar agreement that faced challenges in 1976 through 1977 when world oil prices soared, causing a significant drop in the global sugar price. The Japanese, paying well above the world price for sugar, sought a renegotiation, citing mutual benefit. LCC Australians perceived the Japanese as indifferent to contract details and saw no reason to renegotiate. Similarly, adherence to a spoken contract or gentleman's agreement varies based on cultural interpretations of its significance. As noted earlier regarding native English-speaking countries, an LCC culture places less emphasis on verbal promises compared to higher context communication cultures. Next slide, please. Here we have the expression examples. Certainly, the diverse approaches to providing information and interpreting agreements require intervention from both the interpreter and cultural mediator. Here is a compilation of expressions that signal a distinct low context culture or LCC operating mode to be attentive to. And for high context culture, we have these types of expressions. Next slide, please. The next material is house buying. The process of buying and selling houses in various countries typically adheres to a structured procedure involving a substantial amount of textual information. In countries with a lower context culture orientation, or LCC, there is often an information sheet, both in print and online, spanning several pages to attract buyers. The contractual agreement among the buyer, seller, and estate agent is consistently in written form, outlining responsibilities, rights, and exclusions. Additionally, the building inspection report, though lengthy and costly, is a necessary aspect of house purchasing. Contrastingly, in higher context culture, like Italy or Morocco, these activities are not traditionally part of the house buying approach. However, evolving practices, especially with significant property companies, are introducing changes. Information is typically conveyed orally in these contexts. When examining English, Italian, and Moroccan Arabic sentences, it becomes evident that there is an omission of specific details, prompting the question of how the estate agent provided the information. Next slide, please. Here we have the estate information comparison between a British estate information sheet and an Arabic estate information sheet. While the British information sheet is detailing and has several pages to it and is mostly written, the Arabic estate sheet is rather short, lacking a lot of information, which then will be conveyed in person through oral communication. Next slide, please. Here we have the difference of the meaning give in LCC and HCC cultures, respectively. The different interpretation of giving in the LCC example, he handed me the written sale particulars of the house for me to read. The LCC gives a written and straight to the point approach, while say the HCC here in Arabic, he showed me the house and told me about the area and the first asking price, while in Italy, he told me about what the house was like. The HCC approach is more verbal, personal, and friendly. And that is going to be all from myself. The third material will be carried out by Fanes. To Fanes, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Now I will explain about the others or addressee orientation. In NLP, there are two culture-bound orientation named author orientation or addressee orientation. As can be seen on the screen, author or speaker orientation's language is expressive, high information load, and completeness, while addressee orientation language is low information load, factual, reader-friendly, and has a clear style. Then, there are two strategies used in NLP, KILC used in author orientation and KISS used in listener orientation. Next, the priorities of this orientation are also different. Next slide, please. Now, clarity versus completeness. The concept of clarity and completeness play crucial roles in translating and interpreting. It maintains the integrity of the original message, ensuring cultural relevance, legal accuracy, and making translation accessible to diverse audiences. Here are the differences between clarity and completeness. The first one is clarity. The primary goal of clarity is to convey the author's original message in a manner that is clear, coherent, and faithful to the source text. Then, Translator and interpreters prioritize ensuring that the translated or interpreted content accurately reflects the author's intent, style, and nuances. For example, in KILC-oriented countries like Morocco, administrative documents like marriage certificates are lengthy, dense, and often lack clear presentation due to the administrative language and lack of the punctuation. Next one is completeness. The focus of completeness is on preserving the entirety of the source text content, including its meaning and nuances. Translators aim to provide a comprehensive translation or interpretation that capture all relevant information, context, and subtitles present in the original content. For example, marriage certificates in countries like the US, UK, or Australia are concise, focused, and presented in a user-friendly format. Next slide, please. Lastly is information load. Information load relates to the amount of complexity of information contained in the source text or speech and how it is managed and conveyed to the target audience. The concept encompasses various elements, including linguistic structures, terminology, cultural relevances, references, context, nuances, and the overall complexity of the content. That's all from me. I defer to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany's, for the wonderful explanation on her part. The fourth and last material will be carried out by Raga. So, Raga, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Now I will explain about formal or informal communication. This section investigates informality in the language from the point of view of cultural orientation. Within cultures and communities of practice, the choice between formal and informal language will clearly be guided by the context of situation. If we compare the same genre across different languages, we will notice different level of formality. For example, German, whether spoken or written, tends to be perceived as more formal, direct, or less reader-friendly compared to English. If we speak about an order or address orientation, then an orientation towards the address would generally require more informal language, while an orientation towards the author can result in a more formal language. And for example, as you can see on screen, on PPT, jadi yang pertama itu formal atau informal, membahas formalitas dalam bahasa dari sudut pandang orientasi budaya. Dalam budaya dan komunitas praktik, pilihan antara bahasa formal dan informal akan dipandu oleh konteks situasi. Perbandingan genre yang sama antar bahasa dapat menunjukkan tingkat formalitas yang berbeda. Contohnya tadi seperti bahasa Jerman. For the second material is distancing device. There are linguistic devices which increase the distance between author and address. Interpreter and Englishman David Snelling singles out the Portuguese phrase, essential Q, or it is essential that, and explains that impersonal structures of this kind are much less frequently used in English. These distancing devices are also common in Arabic, Italian, Spanish, and German. Jadi yang nomor 2 ini adalah perangkat linguistik yang meningkatkan jarak antara penulis dan penerjemah dan orang Inggris. David Snelling menyoroti frasa Portugal essential Q atau itu penting bahwa dan menjelaskan bahwa struktur tak berwujud seperti ini jarang digunakan dalam bahasa Inggris. Okay, for the next material is extrinsic features. Extrinsic features according by Downing and Locke are those factors realized by the qualifier which identify an entity by something outside it or add supplementary information. There are a clear indication of the contexting bias of a text and hence of the target reader. And for example, as you can see on the screen. Jadi yang ketiga ini fitur ekstrinsik sebagaimana dijelaskan oleh Downing dan Locke yang mencakup faktor-faktor yang diwujudkan oleh kualifikasi yang mengidentifikasi suatu entitas dan dengan sesuatu di luar dirinya atau memberikan informasi tambahan. Okay, for the next material is white space quotient. In the realm of cross-cultural communication, the white space quotient or WSQ serves as a subtle yet impactful indicator offering insight into how different cultural orientations shape the interplay between text and space in communication material. In low context cultures or LCC, prioritizing simplicity and clarity, there is a conscientious effort to maintain a high white space quotient, avoiding an overwhelming amount of text. Conversely, high context cultures or HCC may assign equal importance to space, not just for practical reason, but also as an aesthetic consideration. It's noteworthy that LCC orientation might occasionally exhibit a low white space quotient, a deviation from the typical emphasis on brevity driven by the necessity to provide exhaustive details or for clarity. This phenomenon is evident in contexts such as American advice for new parents and the meticulous nature of legal contracts. As a tangible example, change in the issuance and validation of rail tickets in Italy prompted the creation of an explanatory leaflet published in 4 languages. This multilingual approach reflects the cultural inclination toward hierarchy and structure, albeit presenting potential challenge in achieving clarity from an LCC perspective. The nuanced dynamic of white space quotient does underscore the intricate dance between cultural communication preference and the visual elements of information dissemination. Jadi yang keempat ini ada white space quotient atau WSQ memiliki peran signifikan dalam memahami bagaimana budaya berbeda membentuk hubungan antara teks dan ruang dalam komunikasi lintas budaya. Dalam budaya konteks rendah atau LCC, di mana kesederhanaan diutamakan. WSQ tinggi mencerminkan upaya menghindari kelebihan teks dan sebaliknya budaya konteks tinggi atau HCC memberi nilai pada ruang, baik secara praktis maupun estetis. So I think that's enough for me. I return back to moderator.
Thank you to Raga for the immaculate presentation of his material. Now we have reached the conclusion. And so, in conclusion, the exploration of transactional and interactional communication reveals the intricate interplay between cultural preferences, linguistic behaviors, and communicative standards. In essence, the intricate tapestry of communication, cultural preferences, and translation nuances depicted in this exploration emphasizes the necessity for interpreters, translators, and cultural mediators to navigate and bridge the gaps in understanding across diverse linguistic and cultural landscapes. That's all gonna be from us. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.